Well, well, well. I am usually one to say when I have been proven wrong. And in this case, it seems I've been proven wrong. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about unless you looked at the title of this video and the thumbnail, which you probably should have before you clicked on this video. But before we get into this last review of 2024, hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Shay. I do content about horror movies, horror TV shows, horror video games. Coming soon. If you watched my last video, you know. And theme parks because I live in Central Florida and I feel like it would be a crime not to. And if you are not new here, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. I would hope you've been watching for a little while and you've seen like my content and you're used to my unhinged reviews. Um this is my last movie review for 2024 and my last video for 2024. I have been not consistently, but I have been at least uploading usually once a month, maybe once every 2 I think I've been uploading at least once a month, which is kind of awesome for me. This is not my first go round with YouTube and not my first go round with trying to do a YouTube channel. Um, so I'm kind of happy that I was at least that little bit of consistent. Hopefully next year we can up the output. So yeah, but I'm really stoked to make this my last movie review of 2024. The reason why I'm saying it's my last movie review of 2024, I do know that Nosferatu is coming out in a week, and I know I said that I was super excited for this. Actually, by the time you see this video, it's probably gonna be after Nosferatu came out, so whatever. Anyways, um, but yeah, I know that I said that Nosferatu is the movie I've been looking forward to. I'm not going to be doing a traditional review of that movie, unless it really blows my mind. I might do it as at the beginning of 2025. That might be my first video of 2025, and then you'll see my end of the year recap for 2024. Um, but this is my last movie review for 2024, which is kind of bittersweet. I missed a lot of movies this year. There's still quite a few that I wish I could have gotten to because, like, I just saw that Beetlejuice is on Max, and so is. Did you know that they were making a sequel to Yule Log? Because I just found out the other day. Remember that video I did, the really long video I did on Halloween about the movie Yule Log? Yeah, they made a sequel this year. They made a sequel. Apparently, Zoe survived. I don't have the time to watch it. I don't. Christmas is here. I haven't even really watched any of my seminal Christmas movies. I haven't watched Home Alone. I haven't watched The Polar Express. That's a horror movie in and of itself. I haven't even watched Krampus. I started to last night and I started to fall asleep because it seemed like every single big company decided this was the month that they wanted to drop all of their horror movies. I wasn't expecting Beetlejuice until 2025. I wasn't expecting that to be on streaming until 2025. Imagine my surprise when I opened Max, the other day, and Beetlejuice was on there. It's Christmas time, guys. I don't have time to watch all these movies. Where was this energy in like November or even October? I know those movies came out like in theaters and I could have just gone to the theater like a normal person to see them, but I don't have the time. At least right now I don't have the time. But hopefully in 2025 I will be able to make it to the theater a little bit more. Fingers crossed. Anyways, we are here today to talk about a movie that has made me eat my words because this was a movie that I was not excited for, did not see the point for, and was actually pretty pissed off about when I saw the trailer for. And then I watched it. I've seen it twice now because I watched it once by myself and then I watched it once with my best friend. And I actually really liked it. I actually really liked it. And this movie is Speak No Evil. Now, if you have not heard of Speak No Evil, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory before we get into the review. Speak No Evil is a remake of a Danish-Dutch film that came out in 2022, and it is the original movie is one of the most soul-crushing horror movies I think I've ever watched. In fact, I think it is up there. Okay, I don't find the ending of The Mist that sad, personally, but I understand why everybody does. I would say The Mist, if you want to call that the saddest ending of a horror movie of all time, I'll give it to you. For me, It's still Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the 1970s version. That's still the saddest ending of a horror movie because that one caught me off guard genuinely. I thought everything was going well, and then he let out that blood-curdling scream at the end, and I knew it was game over for all of us. That's still the saddest ending to a horror movie for me, but I understand why people think The Mist is the saddest. I understand because it is kind of a gut punch. But if The Mist is one of the saddest horror movie endings of all time, the original Speak No Evil is just like slightly below that. um it is one of the most soul-crushing endings, and it's one of those endings that if you really don't like bad things happening to kids in movies, don't ever watch the Danish Dutch version. And I can say that with confidence because the original version of this movie is almost entirely in English. So it's not even like a thing where you have to go, "Oh, well, I'm never gonna watch it because of subtitles." Subtitles ain't gonna stop you, baby. Almost the entire movie is in English. Because you have families from two different, languages, basically, spending time with each other. Two different countries that speak two different languages, okay? I'm sorry. I say things and then I realize that I said it and it sounds dumb, okay? Um, but they decided, for some reason, Blumhouse decided that they were going to remake this movie, and I had just watched the original earlier this year. I watched it because it was recommended to me by somebody that I spoke to within a horror space. And when I say that the original Speak No Evil nauseated me, I mean it full on. Like, I remember finishing it and actually putting on something happy to watch. And it's not because it was scary. I mean, it was kind of scary in like a realistic sense. It was just very depressing. It was just very upsetting. It broke my heart, and I hated watching it. I did watch it again because I watched it with my best friend because I wanted her to see that version and understand why I was so mad about this version's existence. Um so I watched Speak No Evil, and then I heard that Speak No Evil was getting a remake in America because for some reason American media companies think that people can't watch movies from different countries. Especially a movie like this because while there is parts where they do speak their native languages, um most of the original movie is spoken in English because again, you have two families that speak different languages. So they speak English as that barrier to cross that barrier so they can speak to each other. So it didn't make any sense to me why this movie needed to happen. Why did Speak No Evil need to happen? Um, but yeah, the original movie is rough to get through. I was upset that they were remaking this movie in an American version. The only thing this movie really had going for me is James McAvoy because I love him. And I mean that in like a non-delulu way. I just think he's fantastic at what he does. I just think he's wonderful at what he does. I haven't seen anything with him in it where he's been the reason I didn't like a movie. Like usually even if the movie's bad, I still like the fact that he was in it or I'm like, "Well, he did a great job in it." Like the movie sucked, but James McAvoy, guys. And I love when he's a bad guy too. I mean, I liked Split, even though it's problematic. I did like Split. I loved the way that he played that role. He did a great job in that role. So I like seeing him play bad guys. And I was like, well, maybe I'll watch this. Then I saw the trailer, and the trailer just about gave away the entire movie, which I guess if you've never seen the movie, like I had seen it when I saw the trailer, you wouldn't know. But seeing the movie, yeah, no, it kind of, you're watching and you're like, wow, you just gave away one of the biggest plot points in the movie. So, yeah, I was I wasn't looking forward to this movie at all. And when I saw it was coming on Peacock, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch it. And I kind of watched it on a whim. I was like, you know what? I think I want to see what this movie has in store. And I watched it, and I liked it. It's different than the original, and there's things that I like about it better than the original, and there's things I think the original did better. I like both movies. I would say this one would be the one I would recommend. We're gonna get into it, but yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of backstory before this is the longest intro I think I've ever done for a video. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of backstory of my feelings towards Speak No Evil and how they have now subsequently changed. I can't talk today. So, let's get into this movie review. the last review of 2024, and I want you guys to sit back, throw on some headphones, hopefully you're watching this cozying up after a nice warm meal, or maybe you're working on something and you're just listening to my voice in the background, in which case, I'm sorry, my voice is the one you chose to listen to today. But yeah, I'm sorry I'm being so weird right now because I am like tired, but I'm powering through this. It's gonna be a good review, trust me, trust me. And also, I keep getting distracted by notifications from Instagram because I joined a group chat like an idiot and they won't stop messaging me. I say that so, I mean, these are lovely, lovely women that I've met. They're wonderful, and I look forward to meeting them when I go to see Stray Kids next year. Um, but yeah, they're all like messaging right now in the group chat. They've all gotten off of work and they're all messaging, and it just keeps popping up, and I'm like, so yeah, anyways, longest intro I've ever done, but it's the last intro of 2024, and yeah, let's get in to the last creepy critique. So, the remake of Speak No Evil was released on September 13th, 2024, and right now it's currently streaming on Peacock. It was directed by James Watkins and it stars James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, and Scoot McNairy, I think is how you say his name. The critical reception is a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb and an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. And here's the synopsis. The dream holiday turns into a living nightmare when an American couple and their daughter spend their weekend at a British family's idyllic country estate. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight without going too deep into the lore, um, this family, both in this movie and in the original, make some dumbass decisions. They go away on vacation to Italy in the beginning of the movie, and they meet this other family. We're gonna stick with the American version. I'm not gonna talk too much about the Danish Dutch version, except for when I talk about the ending. Um, they meet this you know English couple, and then they decide to go to their house for like a weekend. They get there, things are screwy the entire time, and the couple is really weird. Their kid is unable to speak, and there's just a lot of stuff going on that just doesn't feel right. The one time that the mom, Louise, decides to put her foot down and say, "Now we got to get out of here," they realize they lost their daughter's toy. They go back to get it, and then they end up getting roped into staying even longer. They stay, and then when they finally realize what's really going on and what's happening in the situation, they realize they have to get up and they have to leave, only for the couple to and their friends to corner them and like try to hunt them. So what is going on in this movie? Let's just say this. What's going on in both of these movies? Well, what's going on is that the couple, the British family that the American family meets in this film, they have been killing the parents and stealing the kids. Once they start to get bored of the kid that they currently have stolen, they kill that kid, and then they go out. Well, they lure in a new family with that kid in there. Then they kill the kid, they kill the parents, and then they take the other kid. And how do they stop this kid from being able to get help? They cut off the kid's tongue. They cut off the kid's tongue. Yep. So in the original Speak No Evil, the difference in that movie, well, there's quite a few differences, but the main difference in that movie is that at the end of that one, the family is not so lucky to make it out okay. Their daughter Agnes has her tongue cut off after the original child was killed. So she has her tongue cut off, and the parents are literally stoned to death. They are forced to strip down naked and have stones thrown at them until they die. Um, it's soul crushing to watch that ending. It is really soul crushing. The remake decided not to go that hard, and originally I was against the idea, but I kind of think that it was fine. They it worked for this one. So now that you know what the ending is, the remake's ending doesn't end like that. As you can imagine, it ends with a lot more action. The American family, when once they realize what's going on and they try to escape, and then they get forced to come back, and when they come back, they get caught in the British family's trap. They the mom, Louise, is hella resourceful. That's all I can say. She's incredibly resourceful, and she like thinks on her feet like that. Like she is just immediate, like in the whole thing. The dad, Ben, he's like kind of like floundering. He's like, I don't know what to do, and she's just like, nah, we're gonna do this. You go over here. You take the kids there, and she's just like, she's a badass in this movie. And they do manage to best the couple and their friend and kill all three of them and then escape with the son. The son did not die. The son that the other family had, the son did not die. They escape with him in tow, and that's where the movie ends. So, yeah, it said spoiler review in this, so you should know that there's spoilers in it. But yeah, basically that's where the movies like that's the biggest difference between the movies, is that the American version goes for a more happier ending, a more, like, okay, everything's okay, they got free, whereas the Danish Dutch version is like, nah, nobody survived that. So first part I will say that I liked about this movie is that I liked the explanation of how things were different. One of the things I was worried about with this movie was because of the way they were changing the two families from being ones that were both from Europe to ones that were from two completely different continents, kind of threw me off. Like, why would an American family that's maybe vacationing somewhere, they meet a British family, then they go back home to America, and then they decide they're gonna fly over to England to stay with some people that they just met? Like, I know some people are like that, but like it just seemed a little bit too far fetched for me. So the way they explained this and the way they explained this away was that the American family had actually relocated to the UK. And then because Ben, the father, he had the opportunity to start a branch of his business in the UK. Only thing that happened was it's insinuated, I don't know if it's supposed to be this for sure, but it's insinuated that the possibility was that the pandemic is the reason why the business went under, and that he was unable to start his new chapter of this business, and they basically called him and told him, "Well, I mean, you're there, but like we know you're there, but we can't allow you to open this, like the business is going under." So Ben lost his job, lost everything, and is trying to now recalibrate and figure everything out. And his wife Louise pretty much gave up her career so that she could relocate overseas. It explains then why they do not have any friends or family in the area that would know that if they went missing, and it makes them the perfect target for Patty and Kira, who is James McAvoy, and I think her name is Aisling Franciosi, I think is how you say her name. I kept getting different pronunciations. I'm so sorry if that's not how you pronounce your name. But they're played by but that they play Patty and Kira, the husband and wife for the other couple. They are like, they're the perfect victims for them. Ben and Louise are the perfect victims for them. So yeah, they moving the family to the UK made more sense and made me go, "Okay, I kinda like that better because now you've really victimized them. You've put them in a position where they don't really have anybody in the UK that's gonna go looking for them." Like, yeah, they had, like, the school, they had, their nanny, but, like, that was it. They didn't have really much of anything else, and it could be really easily explained away. Even at the end, Patty's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna send a text to your school, and we're gonna send a text to your like whomever, and we're gonna let them know that you guys are moving back to the States." And like, boom, done. Just those guys, they're erased from the country at that point. So I thought that was cool because that was the main thing. I was like, there's no way like you're gonna convince me that a family that lives in one country on one continent, a completely different continent, met a family that lives in another continent and then decided, yeah, let me go over to that country and go spend the weekend with them. So yeah, no, it made more sense because they were already located in the UK, so makes more sense. Um There were a few other changes like that that I really liked. I do like the fact that the daughter was the one to find out about the, snip snip of the tongue first, that Ant, the son that, Kira and Patty currently have, told her through sort of miming his actions. I liked that because for me, it felt like it was more dire once the child is aware that something is wrong, and having the child be the one to try to alert her parents like, "Hey, there's something wrong here. Like, I we need to go. We need to get out here." And then also, even though the mom in the original was similar to the mom in this one, the like Louise in this one, she, she was very much the like the voice of reason, like, no, none of this is okay, something weird is going on, we need to get the heck out. um what I liked about this one was that the mom was the one that was way more resourceful than the dad. Like, Louise was more resourceful than Ben. Ben, for a lot of the ending fight, was like a damsel in distress. He was just like, I don't know what to do, I'm sorry," and she's just like, "Listen, this is what we're doing," and I just loved that she kinda took charge and got them out. I didn't really mind that the original couple didn't have fight in them like a lot of people criticize. I didn't really mind that all that much because, A, they were in the confines of a car, and it's kinda difficult to fight people in a car, like, fully fight people in a car. And B, I mean, you think that you would be like a tough person in that situation, especially in regards to your child. People were saying like, "Oh, I would be biting, I'd be scratching, I'd be ripping people's hair out and, like breaking chunks of flesh off." But like, you don't really know what you would be doing in that situation. And I always kind of hate when people say, "Oh, I didn't like that movie because that's not what I would do." Well, it's not about what you would do. It's not about what you would do. Like, yes, you can say that what the characters did are stupid, but if you only watched movies because it's what you would do, it would be boring. You know what I'm saying? Most horror movies, if not all horror movies, are not things I would do. I wouldn't walk around like, my house going, "Hello, hello." I'll be completely honest. I did do that one day at my house, in my house. But first of all, it was broad daylight, and second of all, I thought I heard somebody in my roommate's room, and I thought she was home. So I was like, "Hey, you home?" And that's all I said. And when I didn't hear anything, I said, "Whatever's going on in that room, it's none of my business." And I left the room and I went back into my room and said, "Ain't none." And honestly, I think it was just her. I think it was just like noise I was hearing from outside because I had my windows open and I just thought it came from in my house, honestly. But but still, I'm not gonna walk around the house saying hello. I'm not gonna go like split up when like there's a killer on the loose. Like, I'm not gonna do any of that. Like, but if I watched horror movies where people only acted the way I would act in the situation, it kind of ruins it. The whole purpose of Speak No Evil as a film is to show that essentially going above and beyond to be accommodating and to be understanding of people can sometimes be detrimental. In the case of the family in the original movie, they were so afraid to say that they were uncomfortable. At least Sven, the dad, was so afraid to say that he was uncomfortable with certain things because he didn't want to offend their hosts. And it's kind of the same with this movie, except I really do like I feel like I really do feel like Ben idolized Patty and wanted to be like Patty, so he wasn't willing to stand up to Patty. Also, side note, there's got to be somebody out there that's watched this movie that believes what I believe, that Ben had a crush on Patty, because and I don't usually like be out here sexualizing things, but I mean there were some times when the two of them be looking at each other and I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit too intimate for me. What really do you want from this man, Patty? Do you really just want his money and his kid? I think you want a little bit more from Ben, and I think Ben would let it happen. Okay, I'm sure I'm sure somewhere my cat just scared the crap out of me because she's like in the corner turning to get herself comfortable on my blanket. And I was like, "What the heck is that?" um, but yeah, no. I'm sure there's somebody who's written, probably not yet, but I'm sure there's people that would draw fan art of the two of them if the fandom got big enough. There'd be people that draw fan art of the two of them. Let's be honest. I'm not going to get into what I think that fan art would be, but if you know, you know. But yeah, there were some changes I did definitely like in this movie, and I thought were better for the storyline. James McAvoy was a powerhouse in this one. I wouldn't say he was creepy as much as he was kind of gross in my opinion. He was very, like, scummy, and I guess in a way that made him really creepy, but he was really scummy in this one, and it was like, "Ugh, like, you're kinda slimy and nasty, dude, like, I wouldn't wanna be around you." He was weird, and he did a good job. I mean, it's James McAvoy, like I said, he's never the worst part of a movie for me. He's never, even if this movie sucked, he'd still be the best part of the movie for me, and he is the best part of this movie for me, so he knocked it out of the park with this one. It did keep the spirit of the original, it did keep things very similar to the original. Another thing, going back to James McAvoy being a powerhouse, there is a poem that he recites in this movie that I really like. I don't know what it's called, but I really like that poem. It's something about, like, they fuck you up, your mom and dad. I don't know the whole thing, but if I can find it somewhere, I'll leave a link to it. It's such a good poem, and it made me really sad, and it made me wanna know more about his character, like, why is he like this? There's gotta be a reason, because clearly he has parent issues, but it was a good part. Anyways, but they did keep the spirit of the original. A lot of it felt like the original movie, but with its own touches and its own little, like, bit of nuance. And even though the characters were very much inspired by and based on the original characters, they did feel separate and different from the original characters. Like, I definitely feel like Kira and Patty were so different from the original couple in the movie, the first movie. They were so different, but they still kept the same grossness and same creepiness that you expect from the other couple. Louise and Ben, I feel like Ben was even more of a wuss in this movie. Like, he was even more of a wuss in this movie than he was in the Dutch and Danish version, and Louise was way more of a badass. And I liked that the characters felt similar to the original, but also, like, they were also their own standalone. They weren't, like, copy paste, in my opinion. And then I would say these 2 go hand in hand. Um, this movie is like the end. I didn't really mind the change to the ending. My biggest thing about this movie that I was afraid of was that they were going to Hollywood the ending, which was try to put a bow on it. One of the things that I hate is when there's a horror movie that releases in another country that's really, really good and has an ending that's filled with despair, and then America decides to remake it, and they're like, "Yeah, we're taking the despair out." Like, leave the despair in. Come on, we don't have to, like, have a happy ending all the time. But I actually ended up not minding the change for this movie because even though it's a quote unquote happy ending, it's not really when you think about it. When you sit with it long enough, it's not really like a we wrapped it up with a bow, like, oh, well, they got free, they survived. They have a child with them now who's been through inexplicable amounts of trauma. They also aren't really doing well in London, and it's very apparent that their marriage is crumbling, and this might be the official nail in the coffin for their marriage. This situation, who knows if it's gonna bring Ben and Louise closer or if it's gonna push them further apart because they're both gonna be trying to compartmentalize their trauma in different ways. And then Agnes, poor Agnes is, going to be completely traumatized by this, and she's already struggling with mental health issues. Kind of mentioned throughout the movie that the reason she's so attached to this Hoppy toy is because of the fact that she has mental health issues. They have a breathing app for her to help her calm her breathing. She goes to therapy. So it's very obvious that she has something going on with her, and it's probably only going to get exacerbated by the events of this film. It's not really a happy ending. Yes, they survived and they drove off into the sunset, you know, with Ant in tow, but Ant also saw his parents get slaughtered and had his tongue cut off. This is a kid that's life was fundamentally changed forever in one fell swoop. He has not been okay, and he's been in survival mode this entire time. He's not been okay. Who knows what he's gonna be like? They saw the brutality he's capable of. Who knows what he's gonna be like once they take him back? So, again, as much as it's like a happy ending, everybody lived, none of the parents got knocked off, and the kids both survived, and nobody's tongue except for Ant's off screen got cut out. But is it really a happy ending when you stop and think about it, when they endured so much, the 4 of them, and Ant endured the most out of all of them? What are they gonna do to survive when they go back? how are they going to survive when they go back? That couple, Patty and Kira, left an indelible mark on those four people, and you can call it a happy ending because everyone's alive, but I think it's equally as soul crushing as the original ending. But the only difference is we didn't have to watch a child get her tongue cut out or another child get drowned. So that's the only difference between those two movies, is that one, we got to watch brutality happen to children, and the other, we're left with the mental scars that these children now have to carry for the rest of their lives. And it almost goes back to that poem that James McAvoy recites in the movie, where he says, you know, they fuck you up, your mom and dad, and essentially that's what happened. They really did screw up these two kids. Ant's real parents screwed him up by bringing him to this person's house. His fake parents screwed him up by cutting out his tongue and abusing him. And Agnes's parents screwed her up by bringing her to this house too. So they're going to have to live with that torment for the rest of their lives, and I'd argue that's not a happy ending. It didn't feel happy when it happened. It didn't even feel like a relief. It felt like maybe it would have been better if they had died and not had to live with what they experienced. We don't want the bad guys to win at the end of a movie usually, but in a way they still won. They may not have gotten what they wanted, and they may have gotten in the process, but they still won. These four people are never going to be the same again. And I know I sounded like I recited that all from a script, but that all came from my brain. But I will say, as soul crushing as the ending still feels, it's a lot easier to stomach than the original ending. And for me, I feel like that makes this movie the one I would recommend to people to watch, because if someone were to ask me, should I watch Speak No Evil 2022? I'm going to say, not unless you want to feel like you have been buried in sand about 100 feet down and you can't breathe. um, and especially not if you don't like watching bad things happen to children, because oh my god, do bad things happen to children in that movie. Not so much in this movie. There is a little bit of, a child getting knocked around a little bit, getting kind of snatched and sniped by swiped. I meant to say swiped. Sorry, snatched and swiped by James McAvoy by Patty. But no, not really as bad as the original. But again, with all good things, there has to be things that I don't necessarily care for. So, one of the main things that I don't even know why this is included in the movie, because they never elaborate on it and it's not clear if it's true or not. It's not really clear if Kira is a victim of Patty's, or if they just kind of threw that in there to throw off Ben and Louise. They make comments about the fact that Kira is significantly younger than Patty in the movie. I don't know how old they're both supposed to be, but I'm guessing that there's definitely an age difference there, and there's also a hint that Kira might have met Patty when she was a teenager. So, there's a hint there. There's a couple of hints that they drop. At the end of the movie, after Louise slashes Patty in the face with a box cutter and takes the gun from Kira, um, Kira starts to beg for them to help her, for Ben and Louise to help her. She's saying, please, 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 I was his first victim. He did it to me first. He's been doing it this like long. And then Ben slams the door and locks it and says, F her, and then walks off. I can't tell if that was an act or not. And because her age was questioned so constantly in this movie, I can't tell if what they were getting at is that Kira is Patty's first victim, and that Kira is only doing this because this is all she knows. And there's also a comment that Patty makes at the end after he manages to grab Agnes and, tries to get tries to corner Louise and Ben and Ant to them. And he makes a comment when Louise is saying like, oh, like don't hurt my daughter or whatever, and he says, hurt her, like, he's like, this beautiful angel is going to take care of me for the rest of my life. So there's an implication that he might have done the same thing to Agnes that he did to Kira, if Kira really is a victim. Again, though, I don't know why it's brought up, because it's never elaborated on. And you don't know, because they're both so good at acting and pretending to be, like, sad about things, like, oh my god, the scene where she talks about having a miscarriage, I don't believe it at all that it's real, but as soon as she says, like, "We had a daughter once," or not miscarriage, sorry, their daughter was killed in, like, after she was born, sorry. She was killed after she was born by accident, who knows? She wasn't real. I don't believe this daughter was real. But she starts as soon as she says, like, "We had a daughter once," and Patty just goes, "No," and he, like, turns and, like, puts his head ag like, his hands against the sink and, like, his head down. I'm like, they're both so good at acting, like, they're really, really, like, torn up about something. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kira age stuff is not that big of a deal, and maybe she is the same age as him and she just looks really young, or it's like maybe she is a victim. I don't know because it's never elaborated on, and I would have liked if you're going to include something like that, just a little bit of elaboration and a little bit of a way to tell me for sure that, like, yeah, no, for sure she was a victim. You can't just throw that around and then expect me to just buy 100% that she's a victim when you've kind of shown that these people are not always 100% truthful. I kind of didn't like Ben through this movie. um I think he was my biggest problem through this movie. The thing is, in the original Speak No Evil, I think the character's name is Sven. Sven, like Sven. He is like the whole story is about him. Not really about him, but like the frustration, the anger, you really feel all of that. It's palpable with him. You can feel his admiration for the type of man that Patrick is. Patrick is the Patty in the Dutch Danish version. You could feel the admiration that he has for Patrick. He wants to be this big, bold, tough guy like him, but he is just kind of a pencil pusher. He's kind of a little bit of a meek weakling, and he feels like a character when you're watching the movie. It feels like he is the one you're focused on. You're focused on or on Sven in the movie. You're focused on him and his plight, and he's the one that finds out about the kids getting their tongues cut out, and he's the one that tries to get his family out of there as fast as possible. And I'm not saying that he should have been the one to do all of that. I was fine with it being Agnes, finding it out. I was fine with Luis being resourceful, but Ben just felt like he didn't exist a lot in this movie, and it kind of made the moments that he had with Patty, where he was admiring Patty, fall flat. I don't know why it seemed like there was so much focus on Louise and her discomfort and her frustration with the situation rather than focusing on Ben, so you can understand why Ben doesn't want to leave. There's touches here and there, but for the most part, it's not impactful enough to make you go, "Okay, I get why he doesn't wanna leave." Like, in the original movie, I remember thinking, "Yeah, this man's making him feel masculine. He's making him feel tough." There's a lot of bonding between Sven and Patrick, and you feel deep inside of, like, your bones that, like, Sven feels for the first time in his life, like he's a man, whereas Ben just never felt like that. Ben just felt like he was just there. He was just there. So he felt very bland and not really like interesting compared to the character from the original movie. And it gets lost in translation when you're trying to look at the bigger picture with the family and everything. So I kind of wasn't crazy about Ben in this movie. And the last thing, I didn't hate the change to the ending. I didn't hate the change, but I do feel like with that change, it does lose a lot of its bite. I'm not necessarily saying we have to see people get stoned and mutilated, but for me, it was kind of that moment that I went silent in the movie. Like I I kind of can equate it to like the movie The Substance, right? When I watch movies, even when I'm by myself, I'll crack jokes to myself. I'll make jokes about the movie, or I'll make a comment to myself about the movie. A lot of it is a force of habit for things I might want to say when I'm doing a review. It's just kind of like I'm going to make a comment about that, so I kind of put a pin in it in my brain to remember, cuz I can't write notes while I watch a movie. So I do mental notes. Do they all make it in the video? No, but I do mental notes. And when I watch, like, for example, when I watched The Substance, the beginning of the movie, most of the beginning of the movie, I was very like, like making jokes and making like little, like, not making fun of the movie, but making little digs at certain things in the movie. Or like looking for commentary and going, "Oh yeah, that's interesting. That's really crazy." It wasn't until the scene when we saw um Elizabeth Sparkle super duper aged up with the super sagging breasts and like lack of hair and the literal skin and bones, that I went speechless, and I was speechless for the rest of the movie. I was just like, "Oh my god." Like this movie just went from 0 to 100 for me, and I can't get it out of my mind. I can't stop thinking about it. Like what the hell? That happened to me with Speak No Evil. When I was watching that movie, I was making jokes about it. I was making fun of it. It really wasn't that tense of a movie for me. The moment when they ran out of gas, and he and the dad went to go get gas and then came back, and the his wife and daughter were gone, I was like, "Oh no." And then the moment when they were stranded and the car pulled up and it was, the other family, the other couple, I was like, my heart dropped and I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I couldn't even look away from the screen. I just kept watching the whole thing, and it was brutal. It was brutal. I didn't feel that way during this movie. Like it very much felt like, yes, I know I waxed poetic about how the ending isn't really like super, like the ending is like really super crushing when you think about it, but it's when you think about it. If you're not like me who goes deep diving into the psyche of every character and every story that you read or watch, if you're not like me, like when you're watching something at the end, you start to psychoanalyze it and you start to try to find the story, and understand the story. If you're not like me, you'd walk away from that movie thinking it was a complete happy ending. Oh, they got away and the kid got away. That's great. Everything's wonderful. You really have to stop and think about, is it really wonderful? That's something you have to stop and think about. Even though the movie doesn't present that ending as a happy ending, most people are going to look at it as a happy ending. It's kind of like the ending of the movie The Descent, right? The American ending, not the UK ending. The American ending of the movie The Descent, yes, she gets out of the catacombs. That is as above, so below. She gets out of the caves and she gets to the car, and the last thing you see is a jump scare. When you stop and you think, is it really a happy ending? No, it's not a happy ending. All of her friends are dead. She's the only survivor in this in this film, and she's been through the one of the most frightening experiences a person could ever like endure. And again, she's the only survivor. She has no one else to share this experience with. No one else that she's ever going to encounter is going to understand what she went through. And she's got to carry that with her for the rest of her life. It's not really a happy ending. But when you compare it to the British ending of the movie, where she's still in the caves and you can see her psyche has completely cracked and she's envisioning her daughter there, and you see all of the crawlers coming in after her. Yeah, no, compared to that, that is a soul crushing ending. That is an ending that leaves you going, oh my god, there was no hope for her, no hope for escape, no hope for anything. Like it's done. Whereas the other one is ambiguous. The other one you have to think about, is this really a happy ending? Yes, she made it out, but is she okay? Whereas the original is, she didn't even make it out. She's still in there. And it's kind of where I go back to, America likes to make a happy ending, quote unquote, where at least the person survived, but they survived with wounds. And those wounds are never going to be explored. Whereas in a way, it might have been more merciful for them to not have survived, because at the very least, even though it brings us down and it makes us sad that our hero didn't survive, our main character didn't make it to the sequel, it's kind of a mercy killing at that point. You go, well, given everything that they went through, this is probably the best option. The only difference between the Descent and Speak No Evil, and why I would say it's not a mercy killing, is because these two parents, in the blink of an eye, because people who watch this movie, I don't even know, sometimes when I listen to y'all, I'm like, what, were you watching the same movie? This situation happened very quickly. The cutting off of Agnes's tongue happened so fast. It was not a long, it feels long and drawn out when you're watching it the first time, but when I rewatched it the second time, it's like that. It's so quick. That scene goes by so fast. The only reason it feels so long is because you've never seen it before at that point in time. That scene happens so fast, and those parents are trying their hardest to do something. They are thrashing. They are, the guy is literally beating the dad The friend is literally beating the dad in the front seat of the car. He's trying to fight back. He was trying to get to his daughter. He could not. It happened too fast. The whole point of that scene is that it happened in the blink of an eye that they suddenly lost their daughter. And it can happen to you. You can sit there and look at the screen and go, man, I'm a dad, and I know I wouldn't stop. I would be beating everybody in that car to death with my shoe until, I was able to get my daughter out of that situation. Yeah, you say that now, but when something happens in the blink of an eye that takes your daughter from you, you're powerless. And that's the whole point of that ending. The whole point, yes, there are things I can agree with, criticisms about the original Speak No Evil that I can agree with going into that movie that I understand. I do think they were dumb going to these people's houses and really not leaving that information with anybody that they know. Could that have helped them? Probably not. They probably still would have met the same fate, but at least you could have solace as an audience member, knowing that someone's probably looking for them and that that couple will probably get caught because somebody probably has their address and their photograph. But at the end of the day, like, that's probably the only thing I can sit there and go, yeah, I agree with that criticism, because that's dumb. I wouldn't even be caught dead in that situation, because I'm not going to go to someone's house I just met and not leave my information with my family and friends. I literally talked about this with my best friend. I went to visit a friend of mine who I met online when I was in ninth grade in 2014. I flew to New York to meet her for the very first time, her and and the person she was living with at the time. And when I was doing that, I left her phone number, her grandmother's phone number, the person she was living with's phone number, and her like guardian's phone number, plus her address, her home address, with my entire family. Everyone knew where that girl lived. Everyone knew what her phone number was. If something happened to me, they were coming to find her. They were coming to find her. Like, it's a risk, but these people didn't even take that into consideration. The ending isn't the stupidest part of Speak No Evil 2022. The beginning is, but the ending is like, yeah, something like that can happen in the blink of an eye. How many parents have taken their eyes off their child and their child has fallen and busted their head open? How many parents have taken their eyes off their child and their child goes missing? How many times do you hear stories like that? How it happens in real life. You can sit here and scream at the TV screen, no, I know, you don't understand because you don't have kids. You don't know how much you would fight for that child if your child was in danger. Yeah, how much you would fight for that child. Those people did fight for their child. They didn't just go, all right, take her. They fought as hard as they could for their child. And you know what happened? Their child still got. And they still got got. Because you know what? Sometimes you just get got. And it sucks, but you just get got. So, like, again, the ending of the original is so soul crushing because it's in your face. There is no hope. No one's going to get out of this. The poor girl is now trapped in this hellscape with this couple that now is acting as her parents until they get tired of her, and she's aware that her days are numbered. As soon as they get tired of her, they're going to off her and then do the same thing to another child, and you can only hope that the next family is smart enough to call the police. And that ending is so much more soul crushing than the American ending, because the American ending you really have to think on. However, I will say the American ending is more palatable, it's easier. It's something that, again, I could recommend to a friend who I know would hate the original Speak No Evil. I could actually tell my sister, who is very, very like anti, I don't want to see anything bad happening to a kid. I could tell my sister more than likely that she could watch that movie. She might not like the one scene where the dad yells at the son, but if she's watched The Black Phone, which I know she has, she probably could get through that scene enough. I'm like, nothing bad happens to a kid, really. It's all implied. You don't see anything on the screen about the tongue cutting off. It's just implied. So just watch the movie. I could have her watch that one versus the original. The original, she could never watch it. She could never. She would have a nervous breakdown. So yeah, I do like the new ending. I do think the ending for the new one is good, but I definitely think if you're looking for something that's going to destroy your day, the original is the one to go with, not the remake. But if you're just looking for a cool kind of like psychological thriller, this is a good one. This one's good. So final thoughts. Let's wrap this up because I've been yapping for a long time about this movie and I need to get ready for bed because I got to work tomorrow. But I didn't think I would like this movie, but it honestly surprised me. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I ate my words because I was literally in line for Halloween Horror Nights, seeing them play this trailer on the side of buildings and being like, "Boo!" And now I'm kind of like, you know what? I like this movie. It was pretty good. It's a decent remake. It stands alone, and then while somewhat still kind of staying true to the original. And I would definitely say, as much as I do like the original one better, I would probably rewatch this one more just because the original is tough to get through. It's hard for me to get through that ending. So this one's a little bit easier for me to stomach. Maybe I'll just watch the original movie up until they get towards the ending and then I'll switch to the American version and watch that and that's the canonical ending for me. No. I'd probably watch this one over the original one just because this one's a little bit easier to stomach. Overall, I will give it a 3.5 out of 5. Not the worst movie I've seen this year, definitely good, definitely one I'd recommend, definitely one I probably will rewatch. Maybe even own someday. We'll see. But yeah, I really liked that movie and I apologize to everyone who worked on this movie, but especially James McAvoy for being a hater earlier. I'm very sorry, James McAvoy, that I was a hater. You'll never see this, but I'm sorry that I was a hater. I've taken it back and I hope you'll forgive me. But that is all the time that we have for today. We have made it to the end of 2024. Um, what can I say, really? What can I say? This year's been interesting. Um, but overall, I'm really proud of what I've done with this channel. I'm really proud of all the work I've put into it. I know I can get better and I know I'm on the right track. And I can say honestly, it's just gonna get better from here. I'm looking forward to 2025 because I am gonna try to put my whole foot into the creation of this channel and building it up and making it better. Like I said in my last video, if you didn't watch it, I do have my first gaming video coming up next year. I also have my end of the year recap. I'm going to wait till after Nosferatu comes out because I will be seeing that regardless of whether I have to see that on my own or I drag somebody like my mom to go see it with me. I will be seeing it. Um, but overall, I'm just really proud of what I've been able to accomplish this year with this channel. I've learned a lot and I've also experienced a lot. I had a lot of fun this year at Halloween Horror Nights. I'm hoping I can replicate that type of fun next year. Um, Watched a lot of really great movies, some from this year, some from previous years. Um, I have a lot of really good ideas going into 2025, and I'm really hoping I can execute them. And I just want to thank everybody who has watched these videos because I know I don't have a massive audience, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not really making these videos to like have a massive audience necessarily. I'm more making these videos because I really just like horror movies. I like to talk about horror movies and it's honestly a bit of a reprieve from the everyday grind. I work a regular 9 to 5 job. When I'm not sitting in front of a camera and ranting about horror movies, I do work a regular 9 to 5 job, and this keeps me sane. Watching movies and TV shows and talking about horror movies. This and for the last, I will say, since I've been doing this since 2020. I was doing this on another channel for many years, and I just decided to rebrand and start a new channel this year. So that was a big jump for me. Rebranding was a huge jump for me. Um, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for this endeavor. It's similar to my previous endeavor, but it is uniquely me now because I am not really trying too hard to impress anybody. Just trying to have fun doing what I like to do and talk about movies and see what goes on, come what may, basically. Um I am really, really just grateful that I was able to do this year. I'm really, really grateful to everybody who has watched. Even if you just clicked on the video and watched like half the video, because I know I don't shut up and all my videos are extremely long. Um, I promise, hopefully in the future, my videos will get shorter. And maybe I'll only save the long ones for really, really special occasions. But in any case, thank you guys so much, really, truly, for everything this year. This has been a safe haven for me, and this has been a way to keep me sane. And I've had a lot of fun. I've watched a lot of really great movies, and I've also watched a lot of really crappy movies too. Um, and like I said, I had a wonderful time at Halloween Horror Nights this year. Can't wait to do it again in 2025, and hopefully do it up even bigger, and hopefully get to do other Halloweeny stuff if we have no hurricanes next year. Anyways, oh, my cat jumped up when I did that. Sorry, I had to knock on wood to, solidify that. But yeah, anyways, if you want to find me on any socials, I am at Creepy Critiques on everything. I'm on Threads, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky, and for the time being, until January 19th, I am on TikTok. And I say till January 19th because if you don't know, in the US, TikTok is more than likely getting banned. So, we'll see. If it doesn't get banned, I'd be cool, but, I'm not holding my breath. um, so I'm on those, but I am on those apps at Creepy Critiques. I plan on being more active next year, being more involved and engaged in things, so you guys can see more of me and probably see a lot more pictures of my cat because she's adorable and you guys deserve to see her more often. She's usually not out here when I'm recording. I usually have her in her bedroom, which is my bathroom. Usually because she goes in there to go to sleep because I'm doing these so late. So I put her in there to go to sleep. But tonight she is chilling on my bed because she's tired, and I'm cool with it. But yeah, aside from that, I do have a website that I'm going to be working on. I already have one post up, but I am hoping that I will have more. And depending on how the gaming video goes, there might be more gaming content that might get regulated to a little place called Patreon. Who knows? I'm not sure, but I'll let you guys know for sure once I figured it out. Right now, I haven't figured anything out. It is December 16th, and the only thing I'm thinking of is I cannot wait to go home for Christmas, and I cannot wait to have dinner and eat a bunch of really unhealthy food for a holiday, because that's what we do. So yeah, I hope you guys have a really happy holiday. If you celebrate anything, great. Merry Christmas to those who are celebrating, if you're watching this, because by this time it should probably be either before or after Christmas. I don't know, it depends on when I put this video out. It could be before Christmas, it could be after. If you guys go see Nosferatu before me, don't spoil it. Also, don't tell me if you liked it or not. I want to formulate my own opinion. But also, let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know if you liked it. Leave a comment that lets me know you enjoyed what you just watched. Let me know what you think about Speak No Evil. Have you watched either of them? Have you watched both of them? Which one do you like better? Do you like neither of them? Do you hate this concept altogether? Please let me know. And yeah, for the last time in 2024, I will see you guys next time in 2025 with another creepy critique.